come together, the purpose, rather, something that we have to understand is that when we unite, we have to have a purpose. And many I define purpose particularly as an aim or a reason why you are doing something. It's the why to what your actions are portraying. And it seems today is that word purpose is something that is not too pervasive in society. I don't care what form you look at it in. You see college students, and some they're here and you know them. They just here just to take up space. You see them walk the halls, never have a book bag, never have a book, but they're in this class and they're in that class and they're trying this out and they're trying that out. 4 years have gone by and they're still deciding on a major because they don't have a purpose. We go to meetings and you have people, even if they have an agenda or they don't have an agenda. If they have an agenda, they never stick to anything on the agenda. So you spend 5 minutes, 30 minutes, a whole hour, nothing but time wasted because you don't have a purpose. In the last several years, we've seen different organizations, different movements. One of the most memorable is the Occupy Wall Street movement. We've seen them go out and camp in tents. We've seen them even march on Wall Street. But because they did not identify a purpose, because they didn't have a set aim of what they wanted to do while they were sleeping in tents, the millionaires and those who were on Wall Street were still sleeping in their mansions in the hills because they did not have an aim that was meant to change society and the way that things happen. And you can be sure that last week we had thousands of celebrations across the country in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. You had celebrations, you had speakers come up and give him praise. You had singers come up and sing old Negro spirituals to try to revive the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King. One of the things that we keep hearing is, I wonder what Martin would have done. I wonder what Martin would say. I wonder what he would do if he was still alive today. But I want to tell you that I've never seen a living man go to a cemetery when he was in trouble and ask the corpse, what can you help me with? So why is it that us, people who have the blood flowing through our bodies and who still have the capability to think, why is it that we still ask that question? Maybe it's because we've gotten too lackadaisical. Maybe it's because we've gotten too lazy that we don't want to think for ourselves. We'll rather have someone do it for us. Maybe it's because it seems so easy to go with the status quo, and it seems so easy just to go along, to get along, that no one wants to actually stand up and do something that would change society. But rather than having celebrations, we ought to have had a call to action. Martin Luther King Jr. was never meant to be the exception, but rather the standard of how you and I live our lives in today. He was never meant to be some type of God that we look up to and pray. But he was always meant to be the example of how we should carry out our day-to-day actions. And when it is that you unite, you can be sure of one thing, and that is that you will face obstacles. One of the oldest tactics is to divide and conquer. And we've, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, we heard this phrase, Black Lives Matter, and then we heard the media begin to say, well, this isn't right. They are portraying, they are trying to say that, you know, all those who associate themselves with the phrase or with the movement of Black Lives Matter, you're representing black supremacy, but rather Black Lives Matter means poor white, it means Hispanic, it means anyone who's a victim of injustice in today's society. So you should never allow anyone to tell you that you should not be with this person because their problem is another problem. You should never agree with that person because they're fighting a different battle. But if the words are true, that the man in whose honor we're here today spoke when he said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, we should all stand up and we should all identify that Black lives matter, poor white lives matter, Hispanic lives matter. Doesn't matter what color, what religion, what socioeconomic status you associate yourself with. We're all in it together. And finally, in order to unite with others, you first have to be united within your own self. You first have to understand what you want and what it is that your problem and your needs are. This is something that, again, that this generation, and when I say this generation, it doesn't mean that I'm talking about my particular age group or any particular age group. As long as you're alive today, you're in this generation. We fail to realize that our needs have to be met. We have to understand that in order for us to help others, we first have to help ourselves. You never saw a man who is at the bottom. I'm trying to think of a good scenario to give you. You never saw a man who's building his house. Two people who are building their houses, you never saw one of them hand all his bricks to the other. Because when the other man finishes, the other man who gave him all his bricks is still out in the cold. So in order to unite, we have to unite with a purpose. We have to be ready to sacrifice. We have to be ready to endure pain. But first, we have to be united within. God bless you.